So welcome every day, everybody, not every day, everybody, every day to cascading growth events. I cannot speak today. Just to set us off before we meet Tara Collins today, I wanted to explain a little bit of why we're running these events. Um, at Adaptus a few months ago, we went through a process of reviewing, revisiting our own values at Adaptus. And so much of the work that we do with people is around learning and growth. And so much of what we do is bringing people back to values. What is important? How do we want to show up in the world? How are our values driving the decisions we're making? How we're communicating, how we're behaving? And what we often find is that when we're working with groups or individuals in organizations, we find that a lot of people haven't taken the time to stop and reflect and think about what are my values, what's important to me, and aspirationally, what would I like to live more of? So, in reviewing our own values, we found, because I had set the values millions of years ago when I set up the business and kind of was sticking to them. And when we started having these conversations, we found a lot of an alignment between us. And we decided to put three main values together. And the first one was courageous insight, which is under that is dropping out warmth and candor. And this is all about that courageous insight. Only by truly knowing ourselves can we develop the courage to live and work with candor, because there's so many challenges around us. Sometimes we really have to speak up when things aren't going to plan or when people aren't showing up the way they need to. So we can only have a lot of conversations we need to have by really knowing ourselves. And then from then there we can really develop deep connections, and get to know each other as human beings. And the work that we're doing is all about the human at work. And we've often found that there's organizations where people are almost been asked to leave their human behind. Even though there's all this talk of diversity and inclusion, really, there's a lot of leave your emotions at the door. But real connection and collaboration and growth comes from those conversations that we need to be having. And then cascading growth, taking what we discover about ourselves from that courageous insight, from that collaborative energy, having conversations, and then making sure that we're sharing that out into the other people that we work with or our families, friends, communities. And from there, we can really build the world that we want to live in. Apologies. Water before we came on board. So that's why we're here, to really have these conversations together. And what I'd like to do is introduce our wonderful guest today, Tara Collins. And Tara is the excuse me, Chief Marketing Officer at National Broadband Ireland. And her role, I've got to know Tara over the last couple of years, and her role is huge. She's responsible for directing the brand of National Broadband Ireland, which of course it's a very new organization. It's only nearly 5 years old. She's also responsible for directing the communication strategy. She has to engage with a lot of different stakeholders, and she's overseeing PR, communications, everything at the organization around marketing and communications and PR. And she's been with the organization since the start, and was involved, knew about the organization before it started. So she's been very deep in this organization. And we got to know each other over the last couple of years with me coming in to work with Tara's team. So I've got to know all the individuals really well. We've had lots of great conversations. And Tara is somebody who I think is a great example of the type of leader that the world needs today. She is open, she is collaborative, she is vulnerable when she needs to be. So she develops trust with other people. And I think that that's, of course, everything we need in the world today, is sharing our humanity, being vulnerable and developing trust, and great things come from that. So I'm going to just hand over to Tara and just Tara, welcome and thank you so much for agreeing to do this with us today, because I know speaking to groups isn't something that you love doing. So we're really, really grateful to have you here today. And I suppose if I could just open up with, if you could tell us, just to kind of settle in, a little bit about what brought you to this point in your life, anything that you'd like to share with us about what brought you to this point at MBI in your role and your life, your various roles in life, if you want to add, if you want to share that with us.
Well, thank you for having me. It was great to have the choice to come in, Celine. Thank you so much. I'm joking. Celine knows that I am terrified of doing things like this. And in our last coaching session, I said this would just make me feel sick beyond belief. And there's no way I could do it. So then she challenged me to get out of my comfort zone and speak to her live. So thank you. I look, obviously I've given this an awful lot of thought, you know, at the various different junctures of my life. And then more recently, you know, in terms of how I've kind of articulated that I've come to coaching, and I realized a lot of stuff maybe that I did in the past, that I mightn't have pinpointed what are your values as such, even when I thought, well, what are my values? I don't know what my values are. And then you start thinking, well, I have so many values, and then you're trying to hone it down. And then I thought, okay, well, I don't want to bore everyone today and go back to like my childhood self. Sorry, Celine, there's somebody just trying to call here.
Yeah, no worries. We had a few
technical issue. Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
perfect.
Sorry about that. Okay, so then I was thinking, okay, well, what really shaped my values from a very early stage of life? And look, obviously it all goes back to childhood, and I kind of thought, okay, well, you know, growing up, hard work, dedication, showing up. You know, my dad had this thing around, you never give a wet handshake and look somebody in the eye, you know, so things like that, you know, and loyalty. And I was thinking, you know, back, oh, why are they my core values? And, you know, I think your values, not that they necessarily change, your core values probably stay the same, but they expand and evolve over time. And, you know, they dial up and dial down depending on, you know, what situation you're in, you know, if you're at home with your family and your kids, or whether you're in work with your team and the leadership team, the shareholders, etc. But I was thinking back, like I grew up in the 80s in the recession. So it was all about hard work, dedication, you know, and showing up. And, you know, I think without boring people too much, but I think when I said to my parents I wanted to be a famous actor or singer or artist, they told me that Leonardo da Vinci was famous after he was dead. So I should really knuckle down and do a business degree. And if I really wanted to pursue art and dancing and everything like that, I could do that at a later stage in life. But so that's how I came to business, which probably wasn't, in fairness, if I look back, it probably wasn't natural. And, you know, now that I have my own children, I would encourage them probably to do really what they're passionate about. However, you know, this is how I kind of came to business. Now I chose business and languages because I didn't want to so completely give up on the creative side. And I thought, okay, well, if I do French and Italian, I might get into fashion buying. So that would be kind of cool. And then I got into college and I ended up doing French and Spanish and marketing. That was what I got into. That was what the course I managed to get into. And I think after that, it was kind of a squiggly career, but always, you know, in the space of marketing, stakeholder relations, PR, communications. So, and those values that were instilled in me from childhood were very important in terms of, you know, if you don't work hard, you won't get to where you want to. Now, you know, working hard doesn't necessarily mean working smart. And I've learned that as I've, you know, moved through my career. And, you know, I know some of my former colleagues and very good friends who are on the call will remember back to my Ryanair days where I would have been the first one in the office and the last one to leave because I would have been scared not to, you know, be seen to, you know, show up and work hard. Yeah, so that was instilled in me from childhood. And then I think, so just in terms of career, squiggly career in terms of different companies that I worked for, but all in the same space, in terms of the kind of the marketing communications thread through everything. But I worked, I'm trying to remember now, I worked originally for Shamrock Foods and Roma Pasta, so in the FMCG space. After that, I moved into Ryanair, which was PR communications, and then more kind of marketing, advertising. After that, I moved into financial services, and worked for a company that did home equity release, a company called Seniors Money. I worked in UCD, doing stakeholder engagement, alumni relations, business development, managing the advisory boards. And through that, I ended up in NBI, and the role in NBI is, as Celine described at the start, which is very much PR communications, stakeholder relations, government relations, and all of that, all of the stuff I love. I absolutely love what I do. The red thread through all of that for me, in addition to being a common, theme of marketing and stakeholder relations, it's relationships, and I realized that actually one of my core values, my core value is relationships and connecting people and connecting with people, and I think back of how I moved from company to company, it was all relationships. It was always through the people I met and the relationships that I've worked hard to retain over the years as well. And I think when I was younger, I had this dream of walking down every street in the world and meeting as many people as possible. And, you couldn't meet too many people, and it was just great. And then, in the early 2000s, I got to travel. And I guess that was, there was the Celtic Tiger. So it was a completely different stage of, the type of childhood and upbringing I had. I was able to travel and meet new people and explore new places. And then I thought, well, I always want to be in a job where I can travel and meet as many people as possible. And then, of course, kids came along, and I kind of thought, oh God, okay, well, I won't be traveling as much with kids, and kind of then where do I get that buzz from? The meeting new people. So I said, I'll always, choose a job or a career where I get the opportunity to meet people. So in my previous job, I was running a network of over 150,000 alumni for the Smurfit Business School. I never got to meet all of them, obviously. I tried my best and spent a lot of time out in Hong Kong, Singapore, Sri Lanka, and over in the States and all different places, and in the UK and all throughout Europe. And in this role, I get to meet the most amazing people in my home country, in rural Ireland, all across the country, from Malin to Mizen Head, through 27 different islands. And it's been fascinating and really enjoyable. And that is the thread. It's relationships for me.
And you get to go to the ploughing championships, Tara, as part of your job.
Championships, yes, Celine, I do.
What else could you need?
It is great, but you get to go to the ploughing championships, and the Taoiseach and all the politicians, and it's great. There's a buzz. I get an energy from being with people. We have a policy here in work where you have 3 days in the office, 2 days at home. I don't do great working from home. I just have that energy from, bouncing ideas off my team, collaborating with the team. The team here are fantastic. And that's where I get my energy.
And you're reminding me, actually, Tara, because everyone, Tara and I've worked with Tara and her team over the last couple, I think it's a year and a half, 2 years. And one of the exercises we did one day when we got together was, just for a bit of fun and a bit of an icebreaker, was everyone had to draw their dream house, and it was so funny because everybody, I'm sure you won't mind me sharing this, Tara, but you remember lots of people were drawing their dream houses and the house or the building that represented them as a human being, and a lot of it was like cozy fires and away from the world, whereas Tara's house or building that represented her was just full of people. It was like open door, people coming and going, and it really stood out that relationships are so important to you. And you mentioned, so I suppose what I'm getting from what you've just shared with us there is it's relationship, it's connection with other people, it's loyalty to people and the people that you have got to know over the years because you like to maintain relationships. It's passion and creativity are really important to you. And I don't know, did anyone else pick up any other values there? Hard work. hard work, putting the work in, and I suppose the discipline that comes with that, which was instilled in you at a very young age. And I'm sure that that would resonate for a lot of people here today and watching. And I was just thinking there, you know, because you mentioned that how your family, your parents instilled that value in you, and probably the other values that you hold dear as well. Were there any other incidences that you experienced over your career or life in general where, you know, really helped you to understand the values that were important to you?
Yeah. Well, I think twofold, yeah, in personal life, becoming a mum, not having to slow down and, be in the precious present. I joke with my kids and think, we did with Celine, and when we did the coaching session, we did a bit of work on drivers as well. And, my drivers are very much hurry up, people pleaser, and there's good and bad with both of those. And I joke with the kids and think, oh my God, I'll have hurry up written on my tombstone when I die, because it's just like, hurry up, get dressed, get out the door, hurry up. Then I get into work, it's like, hurry up, connect rural Ireland, get everybody connected onto the internet. So it is, I suppose that specific experience in life of, becoming a mom and having to slow down and then think about, well, what do I want to instill in my own children, and what's really important to me. And I strive to live with empathy and kindness, because going back to the relationships, that's what fosters deep relationships. And I think when you're young, you can, it's one to many, and it's just, it's quantity over quality. But I think as you get older, and, whether it's your personal life or your career, you're trying to create an environment where people feel valued. And if I am trying to juggle a busy house and a busy team, I want to be present and ensure that my kids actually feel valued, and that I am present when I'm with them, and likewise with my team. I think it's really important to listen and be present. And maybe I'll just say, when I came to coaching in 2016, I was doing a leadership development program, and as part of that, I was given a coach. And I was probably the only one in the group, in the business leadership program group, that was interested in this and spent an awful lot of time with this particular coach, to the extent that when I finished that course, I decided to spend 3 years of my life on the side studying coaching and psychology, and did a diploma and an advanced diploma, and then went on to do a master's in coaching. And it actually came at a great time in my life, because I was changing career. I know nothing. If National Broadband Ireland are listening right now, well, sure, they know, because they hired me, but I knew nothing about telecommunications. I don't have a background in this industry at all. And I thought, how am I going to go in there and tell those people on my team that I'm hiring in, tell them what to do? And of course, that's not what it's about. It's not about telling people what to do. It's about getting the best out of people. It's about managing the team. It's getting, Jack Welch would say, it's about getting the right people on the bus, tell them where they're going, why we're going there, and what's in it for them to get there with you. And it really is about relationships and the right people around the table. And we started out there was one other example, I'm jumping around a bit, but another specific career experience after I left Ryanair, I went to work for a financial services company, and it was selling home equity release to over 60s. And I was in my early 20s. And that was transforming. It was life-changing in the sense that I think there's some science that says when you're, whatever age you are, 20 years older than the current age you're at, that's old. I was in my 20s dealing with people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. And I just got really comfortable in that space, and I really enjoyed talking to the people, and the wisdom that I got from those conversations that I had. But it also gave me the I suppose toolkit to be able to talk to people of all ages at a very young age in my own life, because I see that even now with when I'm hiring in younger people here, that people are quite good at talking peer to peer, but sometimes navigating up and navigating down and upside down, whatever way, I was lucky at that stage that I went into a job that my friends definitely didn't think was cool, but I learned so much from that period in time.
Mm.
So
And
anyway,
Tara, can I
coaching.
pick up on
Yes.
something there with you? Because I think that a lot of us who are here today, we do the work that we do, and we're probably a lot of us here because we see the power of relationships. And in everything I've seen you do and we've talked about with the team and everything, I can see that the impact of building trust in those relationships on the actual work, the spending the time on the how has had such an impact on the what everyone's doing in their day to day on getting the job done. If we've all come across leaders and managers who are very smart, very capable, and are very senior, who don't necessarily see the strength in building those relationships. They haven't necessarily experienced that from maybe their own mentors or role models over the years. If you had to try and communicate with them the impact you've seen of building those relationships in your various roles over the years, what types of things do you find yourself saying to them? Because I know you've had to influence the senior leadership teams and other teams that you've worked with over the years.
Well, so there's two things I'd like to talk about. So the one, and we spoke about earlier on, or previously anyway, you had said to me, the famous Peter Drucker saying about culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I love that. And cynically, when I'm in the SMT meetings, you might have the finance guy say, well, strategy pays for breakfast, Tara. However, culture it absolutely eats strategy for breakfast. That so deeply resonates with me because people are at the heart of everything we do. They're at the heart of success. And having a strong culture in an organization, it's like that's the bedrock of any organization. It defines how teams operate. It defines how we communicate. It defines how we grow. And it doesn't matter how good the strategy is if it's not supported by a culture that empowers people and aligns with your core values as an organization. It's just not going to work. And then it goes back to that old age saying, when you're again with, I think of my kids, and you say, just do as I do, don't do as I do as I say, don't do as I do. And that's kids copy what you do. So if I see the kids playing on the phone or whatever, it's because I'm on my phone. But so do your team, and so do the people around you. And you've got to embody the values of your company. And I love our values in National Broadband Ireland. I hope I'm not the only one who can rattle them off, but they resonate so much to me as an organization. And I was here from the beginning, or even before the beginning. So I was lucky enough to be able to help create those values, work with a team who came up with our values. Our values are to stand for integrity. And obviously, integrity is that, trust, loyalty, integrity, they all go hand in hand. Empower each other. I empower others to get on with it. Like, I've hired in a team of incredibly skilled people. Like, they know so much more about marketing and PR than I do. And especially in this day and age, I mean, I'm hiring in people who are younger, who are just savvy. They know how to use AI. They're teaching me how to use ChatGPT. It's great. You've got to empower your team to get on with the job. Listen for solutions is another one of our values. And for me, the key thing is listen. When I studied coaching, I remember coming home one day and my husband was like, stop doing that hocus pocus on me. I said, what are you talking about? What am I doing? And he said, I don't know. And I said, I think I'm listening and I'm not interrupting you. Clearly, pre-2016, I never did that. I just, wanted to get my own point across. And but listening is powerful, and listening and playing back what the other person says to you so that they know that you actually really are listening. Collaboration is everything, and you see that when you're managing a team and when people collaborate together, that's when the magic happens. And then having the courage to innovate, and it's not dissimilar to some of your own values in Adaptus. The innovation is key, but the courage piece is really important as well. So I'd advise other business leaders, managers, it doesn't even have to be managers and leaders, just your peers, everybody, embody the values of the organization. And I don't see the values of our organization being hugely different. And then I'd like to just talk about how we got to coaching with Celine, because, I thought, God, I've done 3 years of this coaching stuff. I'll do a bit of this on my team. And I tried to do a coaching session with my team and it failed absolutely miserably. We were in a terrible space. We had started a business. We'd hired 300 people on Zoom calls. You'd think my Zoom would work properly, Celine. Sorry about that, but we did. Then we moved to Microsoft Teams and it works a lot better for me. But we hired 300 people on Zoom and, you're not going to get it right. Then we got thrown into the 13th of March 2020. Like, I'll never forget. We were supposed to get the keys to the office here in City West on the Monday, and we went into lockdown on the Friday. And we never got to come out here. We had literally everybody was in lockdown at home and trying to, suddenly have a skill set to manage a remote team that was never meant to be remote. All the stuff that I love doing face to face and working with people, it was all put into a remote environment. We just knuckled down and get on with it. And it was that manic, frantic, you were working 24/7 because thanks to this wonderful technology that we have and that we're building out now in rural Ireland, you were 100% accessible. And sure, where else would you be? It was during COVID. You didn't have, you answered a call at midnight if the call came through, because that was what we all did. And we were probably just on this high adrenaline. What else would you be doing, Celine? God forbid. But I think there was this adrenaline rush, and then the team, me included, everyone just crashed and burned. And I tried to do a coaching session and it was awful. We were just not in a great place. People were not getting on with each other. I don't even think people liked each other anymore. It was just, and also people hadn't got the opportunity to build relationships because we hadn't actually even had that physical, meeting. There was no psychological safety and it was just awful. And I called Celine and said, why can't I do this? How am I like, surely I should be able to do this. And I couldn't, because it doesn't make sense. I'm managing my team. I needed an external facilitator to come in and really help us. And it was just fantastic. I think, the certain amount of relationships that had been built over that 3-year period, and the belief in the purpose and what we were here to do as an organization, and the reason we all left our previous jobs to come on board to do something that we really believe in, that is transformational and is absolutely going to be the gold standard, the blueprint for the rest of the world, in terms of the only country in Europe, if not the world, that will be fully connected, like nobody left behind. And everybody in here believes in that. People came out of retirement to get involved in this because they worked on other telco networks for 40 years and wanted to be involved in something that meant a lot to them. But my team had hit a wall. And coaching at that moment in time was just, it was gold. We did a couple of sessions. We cried. When I told my CEO that the first thing that Celine did was make us all cry, including me, in front of my team, which was horrific. And I had to pull Celine aside in the break going, oh my God, this is awful. They're going to think that I can't.
And I was crying too.
You were crying too, yeah. But the fact that we even got to the nub of it and broke everybody within the first half-day session of what was going to be a year of, what did the team call it? Was it, you're gonna make us do that the therapy session? Therapy. I was like, no, it's coaching. It's coaching. It is therapy. It's just made us stronger. Like, and people will come and go on the teams. Of course they do. People get better jobs. People decide to go traveling. But what we did, after all of those coaching sessions, or during them and in between, so we had our organizational values, and we said, okay, well, what are our values as a team? And we did a lot of work on trying to map out our own values. So, the organization has this set of values. And we realized, actually, well, as a team, we eventually, whittling it down, having numerous conversations, said, well, our values are success, intent, and relationships. And I didn't come up with that. The team came up with that together. And it shows that, actually, we're all quite like-minded in that sense, but we're all very different, because Celine got us to do the DISC profile as well. Oh my God, I was down one end of the room, and, some of my closest colleagues that I know that will remain close regardless of where we end up in the future, we're at the other end of the room. But it was really visceral, and even standing in a room and seeing how different yet alike we all are, and then saying, okay, well, why are you standing over that corner and why am I down here? Well, let's have a conversation about that. How do you like to be acknowledged? How do you like to be rewarded in work? And what's meaningful to you might not be meaningful to me. How I like to be appreciated is very different, like than other people on my team. But then when we started to get to know each other at that level, it's just made for a huge difference in terms of how we collaborate and actually ultimately how we hit our KPIs and how we deliver for the business.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. You mentioned the Peter Drucker's culture eats strategy for breakfast. I think the first person that I ever heard that from when I started doing this work 17 or 18 years ago was Mr. Paul O'Kelly, who's on this session with us, and I'm so delighted. He's been an amazing mentor for me. And I learned so much from Paul, who's here today. And it is relationships, and it's being open to learning and collaborating that I learned so well from Paul O'Kelly. Because I remember when I came into business thinking I have to be a certain way. I kind of have to put the suit on, and I kind of have to put the man part of me on, the masculine part, and show up a certain way. And Paul O'Kelly was one of the people who helped me to bring my true authentic self to the work that I do. So with that in mind, I'm just going to open up to the floor here, and I'm going to pause the recording here and see if there's any questions, comments, thoughts from the audience. We hope you've enjoyed today's conversation, and we look forward to seeing you at the next conversation. And if you ever want to reach out and talk with us about our experience in working with teams, with groups of leaders in organizations, one-to-one, and also around in general, just values and leadership, we're always happy to have a conversation. And you can check out more on adaptustraining.com. You can also see further events, and people will be interviewing coming up on the website. And of course, if you would like to be one of the people who's interviewed and is sharing your wise words and your experience, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much, and see you soon.